Hey guys. We have a breaking news story actually that I want to cover right now. This has been a case that many people have been following. I've seen a lot of bloggers talk about this. Um, so the adoptive parents of Orrin and Orson West have been charged with murder. Um, Let me just, oops, sorry. I should upload that song into StreamYard, actually. All right, so Orson and Orrin West, both three, 4-year-old, Orrin is 4, Orson is 3. And there's been a lot of media attention that has been out there for these two little boys. So let me actually show y'all what I'm talking about. This just hit CNN. You may be familiar with their faces actually, because you've probably seen a lot of bloggers talk about these two young boys. But those adoptive parents who told police that these boys disappeared from the family's Southern California yard have been charged with murder, which is kind of crazy. Maybe even unexpected for some. Now, they disappeared back in the fall of 2020. What police and prosecutors are now saying happened to these young boys is that the adoptive parents killed both of them before they were actually reported missing. Now, their bodies have still not been found. People have organized search parties after search parties after search parties looking for these two boys. So their bodies have not been found, but prosecutors have charged those adoptive parents with murder. Now, they say that the adoptive parents actually killed these two boys months before they were even reported missing. Gotta love that chopped and screwed, baby. Okay, so Cynthia Zimmer, with the Kern County District Attorney's Office, released a statement, and this statement said, quote, "This morning, I am saddened to announce that the investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased." Now, this investigation that prosecutors and detectives have been involved in or doing over the last 15 months, they've essentially put like a timeline of events together in regards to what happened to these two young boys. So 3 months before the adoptive parents reported them missing is what prosecutors think was when they were killed or murdered, both of them. Now, these two adoptive parents have been charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of child abuse, with Orrin and Orson both as victims, and 1 count of false report in an emergency. And that's due to the false report that they gave police. If they are convicted on both counts, each of those defendants could face 30 years to life in prison. Now, the prosecutor did not release any sort of additional details of the case. And news agencies have been trying to determine essentially if they have legal representation. So they are going to be arraigned tomorrow. They're going to be arraigned tomorrow. Hey, TRG, hey. Hey, Centel, baby, how are you? Okay, so December 21st, 2020, Trezell and Jacqueline West told California City Police that Orrin, then 4 years old, and Orson, then 3, had disappeared from the family's backyard. Police volunteers from the community searched, and even till now, 2022, these boys' bodies have not been located. In those early days of the search, Trezell and Jacqueline West spoke to reporters, and asked for the public's help in finding these 2 boys. Let me bring up just a second. Let me try it this way. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Now, Trezell said he was moving firewood as his wife was wrapping Christmas gifts inside the house. The boys were outside playing. And this is the statement, quote, "I came to my house. I saw them there go in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked. I came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife." He said he even got in his van to search for these 2 young boys. He went down the street. He said it was getting dark, getting cold. And he said he was still not able to find them, right? Just a sec here. I'm trying to find this news conference, y'all. With me here. There was actually perfect. Okay. Now, let me just finish telling you, additional details before we play that. But so far, law enforcement agencies are saying that they have spent hundreds of hours so far on this case looking for these 2 young boys. Now, a grand jury actually indicted these 2 adoptive parents. They actually convened back in December. They heard testimony from dozens of witnesses, and they decided to put a true bill on these 2, Trezell and Jacqueline. Now, the district attorney said even though both of those boys' bodies have not been located, it's not going to stop her from trying to convict these 2 in court. I really wish they would at least return the bodies so that their actual family can bury them. But y'all, let's check out this news clip.
Orrin and Orson West. The adoptive father and mother, Trezell and Jacqueline West, have both been arrested on charges of murder. According to the Superior Court website, the couple were booked on 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of willful cruelty to a child, and a misdemeanor count of filing a false report of an emergency. So how do we get to this point? Let's take a look back at the timeline of events in this case. It began back on December 21st of 2020. That's when the 2 boys were first reported missing. Then on February 4th, the reward grows for the missing boys to $120,000. On March 1st, the BPD announced they were taking over the investigation from the Cal City Police Department. In December of last year, that was the 1-year anniversary of the disappearance with no new updates from law enforcement. And then last night, We found the charges being brought against Trezell and Jacqueline West after the arrests were made. We are hoping to hear from law enforcement later this morning. You can follow this on air and online by going to our website, turnto23.com.
We begin our team coverage tonight of the West boys' disappearance with the new details unveiled by the Kern County District Attorney. Today we learned the two West boys, Orrin and Orson, were first reported missing in December 2020, are believed to be dead now. We're also learning that the timeline of them missing is not what was originally reported. Last night, the Bakersfield police arrested the adoptive parents around 7 p.m. off Highway 58 in Enos Lane. They are currently being held without bail in the Kern County Jail after being indicted by a grand jury. 23 ABC's Vanya Patino was at the press conference where the district attorney gave an update on the case. She begins our team coverage tonight. Vanya.
Brianna, this case has tugged at the heartstrings of the entire community from when this all began 14 months ago. And now what many feared has been confirmed. The district attorney saying the investigation found the boys had been dead for 3 months before the adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West, reported them missing.
We now realize that the search for the boys began after the real tragedy had already occurred.
Bakersfield Police Department Chief of Police Greg Terry adding this is not the outcome they wanted. Meanwhile, Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Simmer announcing Wednesday they believe the two toddlers died back in September.
3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing.
She adds a grand jury trial began last December, a year into their disappearance, where more than 50 witnesses testified.
The Kern County grand jury indicted Trezell and Jacqueline West, the adoptive parents, for the murder of Orrin and Orson West.
In total, both adoptive parents were arrested on 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of cruelty to child, 1 for each kid, and a false report of emergency.
Naturally, the first 2 counts carry the most time in state prison, murder. It is charged as murder in the second degree. That carries 15 years to life, but with 2 victims, the potential penalty or the maximum possible penalty, if convicted, is 30 years to life.
The court documents show that Trezell and Jacqueline West committed a crime that, quote, involved great violence, threat of great bodily harm, or other acts disclosing a high degree of cruelty, viciousness, or callousness with the meaning of California rule of court, end quote. But since the beginning of this case, the community has asked the question, where are the boys? And that question is still unanswered.
Is no, they have not been found. However, I would like to emphasize that the fact that law enforcement have not found their bodies does not preclude a murder prosecution.
Simmer adds there have been many so-called no-body homicides successfully prosecuted, including in Kern County. The 5th count talks about the falsely reporting of an emergency. During the initial covering of this case, we did hear from the adoptive parents when we asked them for their response to being accused of the boys' disappearance.
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want is to find our babies.
Now that officials believe the boys died 3 months before they were reported missing, the question of if they were ever in California City remains.
And that's something we're going to answer during the trial.
Well, Jacqueline and Trezell West are scheduled to be in court tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, and we will have crews there to bring you those latest developments. Now, the chief of police for Cal City was there at the presser today, but said that his resignation has nothing to do with the developments that we learned today. However, because the bodies of these boys are still missing, the search for them continues. Live in downtown Bakersfield, Vanya Patino, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
Unbelievable, right? Absolutely unbelievable. But good news, though, especially in the case of these 2 young boys. But it would be much better if these adoptive parents would tell the world where their bodies are so that these 2 young boys can be laid to rest. the fact that they lied to the public for 15 months, knowing that they had murdered them 3 months prior. And I am curious about what sort of evidence that the prosecutors have. What makes them even say that? I'm very curious about that. So I will definitely keep you guys updated on this particular story. And I'll let you guys know how things go. They're going to go to trial, or either they're going to plead guilty or they're going to go to trial on this, one way or another. So next up, I've got to definitely bring this to you guys. This is a story that I've actually been covering since it happened. Nicole Johnson, the lady from Baltimore that rode around for over a year with 2 dead bodies in her vehicle. The bodies of her niece and her nephew. Both of them were killed in different time frames. So one of the kids had been in the trunk for about a year, maybe even a little bit over a year. And the other child had been in the trunk for a less amount of time, but still a very long time, around 7 or 8 months or something like that. And so this lady, Nicole Johnson, who, keep in mind, didn't even have custody of her own kids. This lady lost her kids to CPS, and for some reason, her sister thought it was a good idea to give her custody of her children. And this lady drove around Baltimore County with them 2 dead bodies in her car through the smell and all. When she was pulled over by police for speeding, it was actually speeding that got her caught up. She was actually pulled over. And that's exactly what the police officer said, is it was the smell that was emanating out of the car. And if it hadn't, he was not going to let her drive that car off, because apparently there was other issues with the car, what would you call it? Hazards that were too big to allow her to continue to keep that car on the road. And she started pulling stuff out of her car because he was making her essentially leave the scene, and he put a boot on her car so that it could not move. And as she's sitting there, digging around in the trunk, she accidentally, the tote. See, one of these kids' bodies was in one of those plastic totes sitting, in the back in the trunk area. And when she started, like I said, moving things around, trying to get her stuff right so she could leave the car, the police officer managed to see the dead body in that tote. And that's how she got caught.
Deaths of 2 children found in their aunt's car in Baltimore County. Nicole Johnson, she is facing multiple charges, including first-degree child abuse resulting in death. According to these disturbing charging documents, police pulled Johnson over Wednesday in a car with fake tags. An officer smelled an odor of decomposition, and his search led to the body of 7-year-old Jocelyn Marie James Johnson inside of a suitcase. Her 5-year-old brother, Larry O'Neill, was found inside of a plastic tote. WMER2 News' Ray Strickland live at the Baltimore County Police Headquarters tonight. Ray, I know you had a chance to speak to a child abuse prevention experts. Sounds like there might have been some warning signs that were missed in this case.
Yes, Kelly, he told me there were several warning signs missed over the past year and a half, a couple of them being the kids were severely malnourished and the fact the 7-year-old was missing for over a year.
It's a tragedy beyond comprehension, and the details about what led up to the deaths of 7-year-old Jocelyn Johnson and her younger brother, 5-year-old Larry O'Neill, are disturbing. At the center of the investigation is their aunt, 33-year-old Nicole Johnson. Charging documents show the kid's mother trusted her to take care of them when she no longer could. That was 2 years ago, and just 1 year later, 7-year-old Jocelyn was dead. Baltimore County detectives say she was killed in May of 2020 at this Regal Inn on Pulaski Highway. Johnson admitted to police she hit her niece several times at the motel before she fell and hit her head. She also confessed to later putting her in a suitcase, placing her in the back of her car while driving around with the body for months. As for Jocelyn's brother Larry, his death is less clear. Johnson told detectives that he died 2 months ago when he lied down in the back of her car and never woke up. She says she put his body in a plastic tote in the trunk of her car next to his sister. Johnson then continued to drive around with her niece and nephew in the trunk until she was stopped by police in Essex on Wednesday.
This is a tragic and horrifying, depraved act.
During their autopsy, it was also revealed the two were severely malnourished. Jocelyn weighed just 18 pounds and Larry was only 21 pounds. Adam Rosenberg, who was a child welfare advocate at Lightbridge Health, says he finds it shocking no one noticed something was wrong.
But these aren't just skinny kids, that these are kids who, to anyone who saw these kids, should know that something's wrong. Someone should have picked up on the fact that there were 2 kids living with this aunt and then suddenly there was 1 kid.
Rosenberg also wonders if Jocelyn was in school and why her disappearance was never reported.
This is what we feared the most during the early days of the pandemic, that eyes weren't on kids.
He says we all have the legal right to report the possible abuse of a child. Rosenberg says if you suspect something is wrong, don't hesitate to help, because in some cases, a child's life could be on the line.
Collectively, I think we as society have failed. This is not just one agency or one institution that failed, but I think we all let these kids down here in some way.
And it is important to note that according to these charging documents, the kid's mother told detectives that she tried to get the kids back over the years, but she couldn't get in contact with Johnson. She also told detectives because of that, she no longer knew where Johnson or her kids were until police told her about their deaths. Reporting live in Baltimore County, I'm Ray Strickland, WMAR2 News.
Oh my gosh, that really, a story like this really can piss somebody off, man. Just the mother, right? The actual mother that gave birth to these children, the way that she just, like, again, your sister had already had her children taken, so she wasn't really a good choice, but for some reason, she put her kids in that woman's care. But what the mother got dragged, especially when this first happened, she put up 4 GoFundMe pages. 4. She tried this whole I'm a victim thing. She killed my children. I was just trying to get my life together. But here's the thing. These kids have been dead up to a year, if not more than a year, in the trunk of that woman's car as she drove it around Baltimore County. And that mother didn't talk to her children not one fucking time. Not once. So it fell on deaf ears. And people dragged that lady all up and down social media. No way would I donate to a GoFundMe for that. And this is the other thing too. The funerals for both of these children were already paid for. The mother, she was not going to have to come out of pocket for any cash money to bury her children. The casket, the services, all that was taken care of. And she comes up with this, let me, create 4 GoFundMes. So okay. I think though that she took 2 or 3 of them down. It was either 4 or 5 GoFundMes, because There's two actually that are still active, I believe. I know one for sure is active, but when I checked this not too long ago, there was actually two of those GoFundMe still active. So, yeah. Now I'm trying to find, there's one more thing I want to look at here. Now, Michelle Johnson, she's actually the mother of this lady, okay, Nicole, and she is calling for the ultimate penalty to be, given to her own child. And not just her, not just Nicole, she's just as pissed off at the actual birth mother, okay? This story, if she does take this to trial, Nicole Johnson, if she actually takes this to trial, y'all.
The bodies of two young children discovered in the trunk of their aunt's car during a traffic stop in Essex last week. The aunt is charged with child abuse in their deaths. There was an outpouring of support tonight near the scene of that gruesome discovery. Dozens came out for a prayer vigil in honor of 7-year-old Jocelyn Johnson and 5-year-old Larry O'Neill. State Delegate Rick Metzger organized this event.
I believe it was ordained of God for that police officer to pull that car over, to stop, to see, because we're 50 yards from the water. And if you check the water records, high tide, they could have put those children in that riverbank and nobody would have ever found them.
Meanwhile, the children's grandmother is speaking out tonight, blaming the tragic deaths on two of her own daughters. Keith Daniels sat down with the grandmother tonight in a story you're seeing first on Fox. Keith.
Well, Kyle, according to court documents, the children's mother left them in the care of her sister. And tonight, the mother of those sisters said that was a fatal mistake. Michelle Johnson is the grandmother of the two children caught in the middle of a tragic story.
They took two precious lives.
And is the mother of Nicole Johnson, the woman accused and charged in connection with the children's deaths.
I love her, but I want her paid with every soul in my bone. They can put her to sleep as far as I'm concerned. They can put them both to sleep.
The other woman Ms. Johnson is referring to is the children's mother, Ms. Johnson's other daughter. On this night, we're hearing something from a mother that may seem unthinkable. She's calling for the ultimate penalty to be given to her daughters for the deaths of her grandchildren.
That's what I want. I want both daughters to be equally charged because both are guilty.
Baltimore County Police found the children's body in the trunk of Nicole Johnson's car during a traffic stop in Essex last week. Police say Johnson told investigators 7-year-old Jocelyn had been dead for more than a year, and her brother, 5-year-old Larry, for at least a couple of months. Ms. Johnson says she last saw her grandchildren Christmas 2019. They looked malnourished, among other things. Since then, she says she'd been trying to get the children back from their mother or aunt, saying she felt that the children were in danger.
They took them out this house. I've been fighting. I called Protective Service. I text the mayor.
Ms. Johnson said the children had once stayed in her home with their mother, but left in 2019. Now she knows about her grandchildren's tragic end.
I'm trying to get any help I can. I was waiting for my grandkids to come home. They never came back to me.
Still so many questions tonight about a family tragedy that's resonating across Baltimore County and the city. Reporting live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
And she's if you didn't catch it in the video or whatnot, she's actually both of those ladies' mother, Nicole, and the sister that was the mother, gave birth to these kids. And she's like, I want the ultimate penalty. Could you imagine driving around in a car with 2 dead children in it for over a year? And the only reason why she even got caught was because she went a little over the speed limit. I will absolutely continue to monitor this case as well. We'll continue to do updates on it. So shout out to the Crimes and Investigations channel, everybody over there. I see y'all. And shout out to the LeakQ family. Thanks to all my supporters. I'll catch y'all next time.